Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Hey, welcome back to Breaking Down Bits. I'm your host, Brian Gendron.
I'm Drew Jordan, and we're already two episodes in to season 2, and what a lineup we have! We're so excited. The premiere, season 2, episode 1, Jeff Dye, was absolutely a wonderful conversation. If you missed that one, go back and check it out. There's a lot that happened in that conversation.
Absolutely, which means it's probably time to do callbacks. What's one thing that you picked up from the Jeff Dye interview, Drew?
I think one of my favorite things, there's a lot. There's actually several that I had to choose from because there's so many great nuggets of information, and kind of his way of thinking about comedy is great. The one that stands out the most is the way that he writes. He says that he puts his phone in airplane mode. He goes to a coffee shop so he's not distracted with all the things around his home. And then an interesting strategy, a little twist that not many people have said before, is then he just writes about whatever is on his mind, whatever he's thinking about, whatever it is. He said, if it was police brutality, if it was falling in love, he just kind of wrote whatever was kind of on top of his mind anyway. And I think that was a cool technique, and maybe pretty obvious, but kind of not, to write content and jokes that is really personal to you, because it's stuff that's truly on your mind. You're not trying to manufacture what would be a good joke or what would be a good topic. He's just said, whatever is already on my mind, that's what I try to write from. And I like that idea, and I think that's something I'm going to be trying to emulate myself as well.
Absolutely. And of course, being in airplane mode allows you to eliminate all the distractions out there online, which can get you down some rabbit holes, which can detract you from creativity, right? So I agree. One of the things I appreciated most was his honesty and just like getting sort of behind the scenes in Hollywood. I thought that was a lot of fun, where he's comparing actors to stand-up comics. And but what I really took away, and something I took on stage with me on Sunday at the Improv, Drew, you were there. There was about 300 people there in the audience, and I just went for it, man. He basically told us our responsibility is to make fun, right? And so I'd never done a lot of political material, certainly not to crowds that size, and I just had him in the back of my mind, like, dude, just go for it and do it with a smile, is something he encouraged us to do. So he really helped me get through that set, and it was a killer set. So I'm glad we did the interview. Yeah,
great episode. Episode 1 of season 2, Jeff Dye. Don't miss that one. You will enjoy that one, I promise. You can get all the details, of course, and all the links to everything at breakingdownbits.com. Also, don't forget, we're full for this week, but we're going to be running that Breaking Down Bits virtual open mic. This is like half of the thing, is talking to comics, having those conversations, learning from these guys who are way further along than us. And then maybe step 2 is come to the virtual open mic, try out some material, use some of the things that you're picking up from these conversations in some of your jokes, and let's talk about them.
Yeah, so the next open mic, there may be some opportunities to sign up. It'll probably be full by the time we put this out, but you email breakingdownbits@gmail.com. We're going to have one October 27th, which will be next Tuesday, and we'll continue to do these as much as we can, and just really use the feedback that we learn from these comics and try to grow as comedians together.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get into our guest for today. A great get. Someone I actually ran into in, of all places, Boise, Idaho is where I saw this guy. He's based out of Denver. Let's introduce our guest today, Mr. Sam Tallent.
Known for his quick wit and improvisation, Sam Tallent is one of the sharpest, most original rising talents in comedy today. Called the absurd voice of a surreal generation by the Denver Post, Sam is beloved by fans of contemporary comedy. He was a new face at the 2019 Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival. He won his battle on Comedy Central's Roast Battle, hosted the Denver episode of Viceland's Flophouse, and appeared on the Chris Gethard Show to impress a girl. His critically acclaimed debut novel, Running the Light, was published by Too Big to Fail Press in 2020.
All right, let's bring him in. Sam Tallent, how are you?
I'm good, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm blown away at the production value you guys have. This is very well done. That intro was very good. And let me set up a recorder on my end, just in case it craps out. I'm in the mountains right now between two wildfires, so.
Well, I mean, technically, you did kind of write that bio, so maybe the credit goes back to you on that one.
Yeah, but I didn't put some music and a video. So.
This is true. I clicked buttons for that. That's all I did. Hey, do want to say thanks again for coming on the podcast. I first was aware of you. I do some work over in Boise, Idaho, and I was just looking for. There's a comedy club there, and I was like, oh sweet, I'm working there that day. I was like, I'm gonna go check out this, get a ticket to the show, meet some local comics, hit the open mics if I can. And I went up to Liquid Laughs, shout out, and you were performing with Christy, who is also an amazing comic. And it was such a fun show. Had an absolute blast, and was like, wow, how did I not know about this guy? This was years ago. And since you've released your book, I realized everyone was ahead of me on this one. Literally everyone in the comedy world knows who Sam Tallent is, except me. So glad to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I'm looking forward to this one. I've done a lot of very bad podcasts for promoting my book. So not only is the production value good, but Brian is a beautiful man to look at.
It's the light. It's the light. Yeah.
Very upsetting how handsome he is. So that's good. I'm filled with spite and gratitude.
Well, thanks, Sam. So here's what we start with. The first half of the show, we like to talk about the industry, and I got to tell you, resoundingly, you're well respected in the industry. I mean, we were talking about our upcoming show with Jeff Dye, and we were like trying to say goodbye, and he's like, "No, Sam Tallent's awesome." He like wouldn't had to get that in before we cut. And just all over the place, man. I mean, I heard you on the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm sure that helped you sell a few books. And
he was me on there?
Well, he mentioned Running the Light, and they were talking about it. Yeah. So look, y'all have y'all are getting out there, or whatever it is you're doing. It's working.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
Wow, what episode was that, Brian?
I wish I could remember, man. Okay. I'm sorry.
Well,
look it up. Track it down.
Go.
Yeah. But resoundingly, I mean, of course, the forward's done by Kyle Kinnaid. I mean, just everybody loves you in the business. So what is it what are you doing? I want to know.
Oh, you mean like as of right now, this moment?
Well, just what, how do you keep your, let me tell you, in Houston, we have, it's cliquey, right? It's very hard to, and it's there's jealousy and envy built into just the fact that people are getting booked, people aren't. And so to just have such kindness and just be well respected as you are, I'm envious of it that you're able to achieve that, and just curious as to what you're doing, even if it's unintentional, to get such respect.
I don't know. I've always been funny first, and always been very nice to people. And I'm very excited every time I get to hang out with comics, because we're so lucky that we get to hang out with comedians who are the funniest people in the world. So I've never really taken anything for granted. And also I've always fucking crushed. And with a chip on my shoulder every damn time I go up there, either I'm going to destroy or I'm going to bring the entire show down with me. And I don't mean to say that I'm not trying to be selfish, but I'm going to try and be the funniest I can, and if I cannot, I'm gonna, the Titanic's gonna sink, and I'm gonna keep playing. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I don't know. I've just been I'm very grateful to be a comedian and to be able to hang out with comics, and I've never really taken that for granted, And also I've fucking worked when people do eventually move to LA or New York, they knew me when I came to, Springfield, or I came to Cedar Falls, or I came to New Orleans. They move, and then they get to tell people that I'm funny when I do go to their town, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah. So obviously the JFL was huge for you. What kind of was there an earlier break that kind of got you into the place where you could tour so much? Because obviously you're very much the road guy. You're busy. You're working all over the place. What what did you do to break into all those markets and all those comedy clubs?
I did it probably the hardest and the most arduous way possible, because like JFL was not a big explosion for me. Like I'm very glad that I can not have to worry about doing JFL ever again, and I don't ever have to audition again, which is like the coolest thing about doing JFL. But it's not 1995. Like I didn't leave with a development deal, and I don't know. I went. Here was my thing, as I came from like punk rock first, so I would go and I would, for instance, I always say New Orleans. I'd go to New Orleans or whatever small market, Omaha, Chicago. Not Chicago's not a small market, but I'd go to every city, and I'd either call in favors with people who did my show in Denver, or I would like hit up people who lived there, and I would do every open mic in town for like a week, and then by like halfway through that week, after like killing, people would be like, hey, I have a show on Saturday. Do you want to come do it? Like, you can do like 10 on my booked show. I'd be like, sure. And then I do that show. And then at the end of that week, people would be like, hey, if you're ever back in town, I run a show on the third Thursday and I can pay you like $50. So I would like just kind of accumulate all those shows that paid a little bit of money. And I would come back and headline them the second time. And then the third time you come back, you can like maybe draw like 20 people. So people want to build a show around you. And I just did that consistently for like, the last 12 years. And now I'm lucky that I can draw like, 50 to 100 people in most markets in America. But I definitely like I've never had an agent or a manager.
Wow.
I've never had any like help from anyone besides my fellow comedians. And I think that makes it more legit, man, when you have people like when you have the king of that scene telling people to come see this show. Because like when people come to Denver, I'm not, unless they're very funny, I'm not promoting for them. But when like the funniest person in your scene says like, hey, come see this person, you probably will listen to them,
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to be as funny as possible every damn time, because you never know who's going to be in the room. Or my dad always says it's just about showing up, man. Like you just got to be there. And if you do the work, like hopefully it'll all pay off. It's like pebble by pebble, stone by stone type shit.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that. A great reminder to any comedian coming up is put the funny first and do the hard work.
I don't know if that matters anymore though, dude.
What do you say that?
Well, I just like see a bunch of people who have like, 15,000 Instagram followers, and they've never said they don't have 7 minutes to rub together. And they've never been publicly funny in any form that I've ever seen.
Right.
And still they can like, they'll get into clubs easier than I do because they have, a giant YouTube presence or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I don't really know, and I don't want to sound like an old withered husk, but I don't know how much it matters to be funny. You know what I mean? Which is
interesting. Yeah, because unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's about selling drinks and food.
100%, dude. That's all we do.
And so, look, they don't care if you're telling jokes or if you're dying up there, but if you're selling that stuff, then you're winning. So that you raise a good point, but at the same time, I mean, there's still so many people, Sam, that want to get out and hear good comedy, and you want to feel good at the end of the night. And if you're not achieving that, I don't think it's gonna go much further. Like, you know what I mean? That people aren't gonna want to come back to that show. They'll be like, well, he's funny online, he's YouTube funny, but he's not comedy. He's not stand up funny. And so
I hope that's true, but I really don't know how savvy consumers are. You know what I mean?
I think you got to be both. You got to be both, right? I mean, it's in today's age, you got to figure out both at the end of the day, I think.
So what's your strategy to combat that then? Since you're way further along this road, how do you combat the pretty YouTube, Instagram famous people who can cut and paste a bunch of stuff together that seems funny? How do you fight that? How do you compete in a world where that exists?
Well, I'm lucky that I've been working organically for so long that like I said, like the fourth time I come to town, the 20 people who were at that first show want to bring someone to see it because it was so exciting, Yeah. And like, I don't want to sound like I'm the best comedian ever, but I do give I am in the moment. I improvise, I riff, like I really pride myself on my whole idea for my shows was like, it was like Grateful Dead shows or Fish shows where like there's bootleg. And like people are like, you should have seen this show in Cincinnati. Like that was like a real hot one. So, and also, like, I'm not in a lot of clubs. Like, I work for the clubs that have been nice to me, and like, I'm trying to break into more of them. But I'd much rather do like, Kansas City Thursday, Omaha Friday, Springfield, Missouri Saturday, and just try and sell out 100 tickets at $10 a ticket and make $3,000, as opposed to going to like, you know, X club and making like, you know, $800 to $1,200 for people who don't know who I am.
Mm.
So like,
so
I'm not really like ahead of the curve. I really did it the dumbest, hardest way possible. That's all I knew how to do, man.
You're just the behemoth. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'd rather be lucky than dumb, or you know? But I did it the tough way, and it worked out. I'm glad.
It's a weird thing. You're not going to believe it by looking at me, but I came up a fish head, man. So I love that analogy of sort of it's the depth of the material, and then just grinded it out over time. And of course they had tapers at all their shows that wanted to catch those moments that you can only catch during that exact show.
Yeah.
And that's a great analogy and a great call out to comics to be present, you know, do something, find out a way to make it unique in writing or in approaching the show. And then of course, just be present in the moment and be able to, like you said, riff and improvise.
Yeah. And I've always like given myself over real hard to the people after the show.
Mm-hmm.
Where like, you know, I make my own merch and I'm selling my own merch. And if people want to gush or bore me, or, you know, like it's like the Punisher, the guy who won't shut up or let you sell your merch, and he just like stands in line and tells you how much he likes Ari Shaffir. Like, I like Ari. Ari's the man, but you know, like I've given way too much of myself to the crowd to not have to pay off a little bit, you know.
Oh, that's good. And yeah, I can attest to that. I mean, your show that I saw that time was hilarious. You worked the room, you were present. You hung out afterwards. I mean, hopefully I didn't punish you, but we did get a photo together. It was great.
No, man. I'm sure you didn't take up 15 minutes while there were people in line either.
Did not do that. But
yeah,
I think
the worst is Kanane, man. Dude, this dude's in like denim vests with like big beards and engaged earrings will fucking bother him. And he's a slight man, so I think that's why he likes me to open for him, because I'll be like, all right, move it along, fucking.
So like after your set, you have to be the bouncer for Kyle Kanane?
A little bit, because he's so kind, but he's so like, you know, he's real tiny too.
Oh, that is funny. Any other I think that you're such your experience in that world, if you had to give a tip to someone, let's say there's a comic, you know, we're from Houston, a larger market, but sometimes it's hard to start to break out of your city and start getting into other places. You have any advice for that comic who says, man, I got like 10, 15 minutes that are solid. I'm ready to start branching out. What do I need to do to make some moves in the comedy world and kind of make my impact a little larger?
That's a really very nuanced and good question, actually. I don't know. I was lucky because I ran a show in Denver for 6 years, a weekly show, and also hosted 2 open mics in town. Okay. So I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were all shows that I hosted. Mm-hmm. So when people would come to town, they would pop into Lion's Lair on Monday, and if they were funny, I'd be like, hey, I host Squire on Tuesday. Come down. I'll like buy you a drink. And then also like the bigger name comics in town, if our show was good on Wednesday, so if they had like a Jonathan O'Donnell or a Best Selling back in the day, like in town, they'd be like, hey, you should headline the Wednesday show at the Fun Gentlemen's Club. Or even if they weren't that good and they came and did 10 minutes, they'd still be like, I don't know. The trick to it is succinctly, because I ramble and I'm very sorry, is just like, if you're funny and people know you're funny, and if you were solid to them in your town, there's no shame in asking them what the good, or if you, did I lose you guys? Okay.
Oh, there we go. You said when if you were solid to them, no shame in asking for them for some stage time when you're in their city, right?
Yeah, and also like if you see that, like, you know, back in the day, it was like you know, before Soder really popped, if I saw Dan Soder was in a place, I'd hit him up and be like, how was that show? Like who books that show? Like just hit up your friends and ask how things are going in different cities, you know? It is a network, and as long as you're not a fucking phony or a fraud, like it's not an issue calling in favors.
Great.
I think a lot of people are really scared to ask for stuff because they don't want their feelings hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never like been afraid of asking people for stuff because I know I'm going to do a good job.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I mean, you led with be funny. That was your number one. That's number one. And then from there, you don't feel as bad because you know you're going to do well. And you've always got that in the back of your mind.
like if you are funny and you're in town and they have a big show, people would love to put their funny friend on in front of like a YouTube comic, knowing they're gonna bury that comedian. You know, like if you're just funny, always be funny. That's all. That's the only trick. That's like the biggest shortcut is be fucking funny.
You know, I was thinking I have a show that I run. It's on Saturday night, but the idea of running, you said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even there's one in Houston on Thursday because people will come in and do the weekend, you know, and they'll always pop in. It's called God Damn It. That's a shout out for a local show here in Houston. A lot of times comics will come in and pop in and do 10, you know, to prep for their weekend show, try to test out some of those last jokes. And so I love the idea of mastering the middle of the week shows. Or having a few of them with the opportunity to meet, you know, comics on the road.
Yeah, I mean, that was the same thing in Denver. Is the weekend at Comedy Works starts on Thursday, so we ran Wednesday.
Perfect.
And then Josh Blue would have someone, and they'd be like, "Yeah, go do this show," you know.
Yeah, it sounds like running a mic, running a show is a great way to get those networking connections. You have something to offer a traveling comic or other local comics. You got something to barter with now because if you can grow a good show or host a good mic, you've got something to offer then.
Yeah, and also if you think you're king shit in your town, like these kids who start at your shows are gonna move somewhere else and they're gonna get funny. So like if you were a dickhead to them and they move off to Boston, they're not gonna bring you in to headline their show in Boston, you know? Or if they move to Seattle or Austin or whatever it may be, like, yeah, just like don't be mean to people. You don't benefit at all by being mean to people.
Yeah, I had a boss a while back that said, Drew, you know, I always treat everyone nicely because, you know, one day I might need a job from you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to live. Never position yourself in your head above other people because one day you might need their help. Just because you might have the status today doesn't mean that's going to be the truth tomorrow.
Yeah, man, 100%.
Well, the second part of our show, we really dig into writing and performance. And one of the things we do is we watch some of your material. But before that, we like to do a couple questions that we ask everybody. The first one, very open-ended. It's just, how does Sam Tallent write comedy?
On stage, man.
Yes.
I couldn't be. I'm a very bad writer of jokes. Like when you said Jeff Dye, like I've been with Jeff Dye in a coffee shop where he's like, let's get some coffee. And I'm like, cool, we'll shoot the shit and like kill 2 hours. And he's like writing the whole time. It's like, oh, this isn't why I'm here. I thought we were going to be goofing. The best I can do at writing is thinking of a funny line and then writing that down and then trying to build the rest of the entire bit around saying that funny line. But I'm like a big idea guy where it's like, okay, let's riff on this, let's riff on that. And I think I've really been hurting during quarantine because I have to, like I was doing, 45 weekends a year on the road, and I'd be able to hammer out ideas for 5 shows in a weekend. And by the end of that, like, maybe you have a new 3 to 5 minutes and it's pretty cool. But yeah, I can't just sit down with a pen and a pad, man. I'm very much writing on stage.
Wow. So if you're on stage writer generally, what are you doing off stage to prepare yourself for that moment is there anything you're doing, collecting ideas? What are you doing off stage that allows you to do so much writing on stage?
I'm drinking about 7 Miller Lights.
Good start.
No, man, I mean, I like to hang out with comics. So, sorry, did I break up there?
Yeah, sorry. So would you start that over? You said you hang out with comics?
Yeah, I like to bust balls in the green room, and also I started an improv, which I know how like shameful that is for a comedian to admit, but I never thought I was going to be a stand-up. I thought I was going to be in like Second City or something. So I started doing improv, and I got really comfortable with improv's good to teach you how to fail on stage in front of people. That's the thing you learn is to go up there with nothing and be totally okay with fucking bombing in front of a paid crowd, which you need to get over if you're going to be a good comic. But yeah, man, I mean, I pace a lot. I'm in the back just pacing like a lion, like a fucking animal. And I think the best thing I've done is I put my ego on the line enough that it needs to back me up. Like I've been funny consistently enough that I've trained my brain to like not allow me to fail, I guess, on stage, which isn't like helpful at all. Like I'm not giving very good tips or advice on that. Like, I don't have any kind of preparation for the stage besides just like 10 minutes of pacing real hard while the feature's on.
Good strategy. Good strategy. Yeah. Gets the blood flowing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I like to do primate posture with your hands over your head, like that, get your reptile brain going.
So would you say that? Would you say that for you, and maybe your personality type is, are you kind of an always on kind of guy, where like
no,
not at all?
No, I mean, I think that you can tell by this interview that I'm very sincere and earnest. You know.
Sure.
But I mean, if we're in the green room, dude, like I'm with the funniest people in Houston. Let's fucking bust balls. Let's have some fun. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm definitely not always on, man. I detest those people. They're very taxing.
You can never really like break through to the real them.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, we have to hang out for 3 days in Wichita. Like, you're tiring me out already. You know, like I'm not gonna buy your lunch if you're annoying.
That's great. I'm just always astounded by the on-stage writers. Like for me, I've had moments where I've for sure had a nice tag come to mind, or an interaction with an audience member leads to a different perspective on a joke, and I'm thankful for those little gifts when they happen. But I never step foot on stage without having a great idea of every joke I'm probably going to do. And I'd love to loosen up more and be able to be more flexible, but just not there yet. And I'm always astounded by these comics like you who just have that riffing ability, and then maybe that improv background does kind of make you just like confident to go, hey, I'm going to try this. And maybe I need to loosen up and stop being afraid to fail.
Well, I mean, it's exciting. Like, it's more exciting for me as a performer to be in that situation. And I think it's more electric. But it's also grass is greener, man, because I got a lot of friends who are very gifted writers. And it's really, I'm very jealous of whenever they're on stage and able to just do 10 minutes of killer jokes. And I got to go up there and use every part of the buffalo. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm clapping and tickling. But
I think when I asked if you were always on, I think what I really was trying to get at was, were you the guy, if you're the on-stage writer, does that mean that maybe you are great at making people laugh just in the lunch line and you know, hanging out? Like, you're that guy who works the people in those little candid moments, and you're getting the big laughs in those moments.
Yeah, like I've been, you know, it's fun. I've been pushing my mom around in a wheelchair up in here in Estes Park, and it's fun to say something real obscene to your mom when you're passing a group of 4 people. You know, like that's one of my favorite bits. So yeah, dude, I really enjoy making people laugh, and I don't get off on the idea of just doing an act. You know, like I know my show isn't as good when I'm just doing when I'm going. Like my favorite show is when I can stay away from my act completely and do 45 minutes of just riffing and crowd work. Like that, I think that's the juice for me, man.
There's definitely some irony here that the guy who doesn't write and is afraid of writing is one of the only comics I know that's written any fiction and a full fiction novel. I'm going a little bit off, but this is okay because I want to talk about it. Before we get into the comedy sets and all that, let's take a minute about tell us about the book, man. How did that come to be done?
Damn. I lost that entire question, dude.
Oh, just how did the book come to be? Was ultimately what it landed on.
Yeah, man. I wrote this book when I lived in Las Vegas. My wife did her first 2 years of med school in Las Vegas, and I've always been like a big reader of literature. I love reading, and I wrote short stories and stuff for a long time. But I was just alone, man. I was like very alone. It was very lonely. You know, besides my wife, I didn't really have the big friend circle I had coming from Denver, where I was like, you know, as plugged into the community as a man can be. So, yeah, it just came from like, you know, and also like I couldn't go outside in Vegas because it was 110 degrees all day. So like back in the day, I just go outside and read in the park. Like that wasn't really an option in Vegas. So just came from solitude, I think, and reading a bunch. I love reading.
Did a lot of the inspiration, I wish I was further into the book than I am. I just grabbed it about a week ago, and just sounding out words is slow for me. Yeah. But I love it, and I love it seems like, and maybe I'm off base on this, but it seems like you're giving some really great insight into what it's like to be a road comic. It feels like there's a lot of truth being masked in the fiction novel, unless I'm off base here.
No, man. I mean, it's all those shows are shows I've done, you know, or like situations I've been in, or experience from other comedians. And yeah, no, it's a cautionary tale, man. It's the guy I don't want to turn into, you know. That's 100% what it is. It's just who I fear becoming on the road, because the road will make you feral, man. If you don't have anyone to answer to and you're just a ghost out there by yourself, like, you can get real dark and real bleak and real gross.
Yeah. What is your in those moments, what can you do as a road comic to stay connected? And what did you have some real life strategies that you implored to not be that way?
Yeah, I really like having a feature that I love with me at all times. Like I just, it's really important for me to have someone that makes me laugh and makes me feel like not alone out there. So I've definitely prioritized people who are my friends, and having them open for me is like super important. And also, I have like a very great wife and like a great family, so I can always call people too, right. You know. But my wife's busy; she's in a hospital all day. So having like Donnie Townsend or having Dan Alton or having Christy Buckley with me is just like, even if I gotta pay a little to bring them with me or pay for their hotel room or whatever, like, it makes it a lot better for me.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a great strategy, just to never be totally disconnected from your people that you love.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and, Drew, if it's all right, cue up the set.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. There's a little bit of lag, and I do apologize to the listeners. I'm in Estes Park, which is between the two wildfires in Colorado right now.
Yeah.
And
the internet's not probably super strong there.
No, it's not, dude, because firefighters are using it to save pets and families, you know, like,
yeah, it's more important
right now.
For sure.
More important than dick jokes, but we'll still get through it. So real quick, the way we set this up is just tell us a little bit about, I think it's a JFL edition, but just let us know about any details about that day, about that set, anything we should know behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think this was my 5th or 6th JFL audition. And 3 years previous to this, I had been told that I had JFL by the people who were in charge. And then I did like an interview with them, because you do like a series of phone interviews afterward.
Yeah.
They were like, so where are you going to move, LA or New York? And I was like, well, I'm not moving anywhere until my wife's done with med school. You know, I was like, I'm staying in Denver because I love my wife, and like, that's what's important to me. And then when they announced JFL, I wasn't in it. After telling a couple people, like, I got it. It really hurt. And then I reached out to them and I was like, what the fuck? And they were like, yeah, you should have lied. You should have said you were going to move to LA or New York.
Wow.
And then the lady who was like in charge of JFL stopped doing it that year. And I had to fucking audition, 2 or 3 more times to finally get it. And I did lie. I eventually lied and was like, I'm moving to LA or New York. Yeah, as soon as I get this, I'm out of here. I was zero intention of doing that ever.
There's the advice where it's just so you have to compromise on your morals and integrity to get ahead. That's so unfortunate.
If JFL is listening to this, I am planning on moving to LA or New York immediately after this interview.
Yeah. Okay. Hey guys, let's go ahead and roll the first part of this clip. I divided it up into 2 parts. Let's roll it.
Make some noise for Sam Tallent. Hey everybody. Been watching the show. There's a certain kind of comedy that's missing, and that is impressions. You guys like impressions? All right, good. Hey, you guys like Ray Romano? All right, less enthusiasm. That's fine. Here's an impression for you of Ray Romano getting fucked in the ass. All right? Yeah. Hey, you're thinking it? I'm saying it. Here it is, everyone. Ray Romano bent over the barrel. Here it is. Oh. 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 Robert. There it is, everyone. Thank you. That's right. Applause break. Out the gates. You're welcome, guys. I'm a bit weird. I'm sorry. I got fired from my job this week, everybody. Yeah, I know. I worked at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. They fired me for over-enthusiasm. Can you believe this? I loved the job too much. This guy came. He was a secret shopper. He's like, what should I get? I said, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm a little fudge judge. They fired me. That's an example of a joke. All right. My wife was like, "Don't do that joke." I was like, what do you know, you rascal? That's right. Yeah. I have a wife, everyone. I am married to a lady. Yeah. Didn't have to clap. Wasn't a Make-A-Wish. No. No. Yeah. She did propose to me, though, which is weird, because it means she has a type. It's type 2. Now, I love her and my feet hurt. So my wife... My wife, real hell of a love maker, this lady. All right, real enthusiastic gal. She did. She actually proposed to me at a bed and breakfast because we've got a weird fetish. Anyone been to the bed and breakfast with a lover before? Okay, one. Nice, yeah. One dirty perv. All right. It's fine. You got the same kink. We love the bed and breakfast. Me, my wife, this lady over here. All right. We got this weird thing where we like to fuck at places that feel like grandma's house. That's... Yeah. Wish I was kidding. I'm not. No. I can't even get hard anymore unless there's like 7 American Girl dolls in the room.
Such a good set. So much to talk about there. So many questions.
Okay.
Already on my mind.
So you started with an impression. My last set, I considered doing a Donald Trump impression, and somebody's like, "You can't do it. It's hacky." And I was like, "Okay, fine. I probably would suck at it anyway." So I've never done it. I don't know if Drew, I can't think of you doing impressions on stage, but
I haven't done any really. I think the Ray Romano one. It's so perfect, but it's not really a lot of an impression. So I'm wondering, like, did you just like be like, I got an idea. I'm gonna barely do this impression. It's gonna be really funny, and just kind of. It seemed like it was almost not premeditated. It really came off as like the way you sold it was like, here goes. I'm just gonna launch into the show and get a laugh in the first few seconds.
Yeah. I'm very good at making it seem like I'm improvising. I'm good at making the joke seems like very new and organic. But that joke came from me making that noise. Like that was my Ray Romano impression. And also, like that joke always gets an applause break. So I was like, okay, I got 30 seconds. I needed to kill. Like this was very important to me. That's my home club comedy works. Like. So I was like, okay, do the Ray Romano up front. It's absurd. It's I don't want to say it's anti-comedy, but it's very much like not begging for it. You know what I mean? It's not thirsty for the laughter. It always gets an applause break. So I was like, okay, this is a lock. I'll open with this. Kind of set the tone that's going to be silly and strange. And this audition was like everyone in Denver who's on the paid list was auditioning. It was 2 nights, and this was the second night. And there was a lot of people just doing like their very hardcore A material, which is so rote and memorized. I was like, I'm going to do my best to cover all my bases and try and make it seem kind of fun and different. And opening with Ray Romano getting fucked in the ass is a good way to do that.
It does set quite a tone for the rest of the show. That maybe you're not going to. It sets a tone, I think, of surprise. Like they were not expecting that. And now they don't know what to expect next. And I think that creates a real sense of excitement in the audience, probably.
It's definitely like a what the hell is this? Like I like an opener. And I do open with Ray Romano very often on the road.
Yeah.
Because it draws them in and it's dirty, but also it's very silly, which I think is like very fun comedy to do. Yeah. And I remember talking to my friends about how they were like, what are you going to open with? And I was like, Ray Romano into Fudge Judge. And they were all like, you don't want JFL. Like, what do you, how big of a fuck you can you give to this guy if you're going to do those 2 things in front? And I was like, like, that's where it's at. This is the move.
It's good because then you went into the Fudge Judge, both very silly, but it really could have been anybody. And then you take the opportunity to go personal. Now you're talking about your wife, and then it allows you to go anywhere with that. And the bed bed and breakfast. I've been to a bed and breakfast with my wife. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are good portion of them have. And the way you sold it and described it is very accurate, super accurate. So very good visually. And then you open it up now that you've created this image for you to play in that space, and you do that for a long time in this set. It's great.
Yeah, man. I mean, but Fudge Judge is the biggest. Like last night, my sister, my brother-in-law, my mom and dad are up at this cabin, and they always quote Fudge Judge because it literally doesn't make any sense. Like why that joke works. I wanted to include that in this interview because I really don't know what the deal is there, but it's so much fun. It's the most fun I get to have telling a joke I've written is Fudge Judge. I really don't know why it's a slam dunk, but it fucking hits every time, dude.
I think it might be one of those jokes that, like, it's a phrase that sounds dirty but isn't.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's funny just because of the phonetics, not necessarily the semantics of the joke. It's just the sounds you make that is funny.
It's also not really a joke.
Yeah.
Like, I got fired from my job for over enthusiasm. What the fuck are you talking about? Then there's a secret shopper who he decides who lives and dies. He has the higher capabilities. And then I get fired for saying wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm a little Fudge Judge. None of it adds up. There's no trails of breadcrumbs that lead back to the cabin, man.
Well, I think so. It's in there. It's almost in the set for you. Like, you get to laugh that they're like, why are you laughing at this? And then you get to have kind of fun in your own head every time you tell it, right? It's one of those types of things.
100%.
And now you're having fun, and that's important in any set as well.
Yeah.
So.
It can't be more overrated. That thing Jeff Dye said about smiling is really important.
Mm-hmm.
This crowd is so dumb, man. Like, if they think you're laughing, they're like, oh, I should be laughing. This guy's a professional.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, me and Brian make no secret about the fact that we are newer comics. We are not, 10 years, 20 years down the road at all. We're newer. But the one thing that I think I've realized in my writing as a newer comic is that the audience, like, I gave the audience way too much credit in my early writings, and I made the jokes too hard to follow because I wanted it to be smart. I wanted it to catch them by surprise. And then I go on stage or I go out to shows and stuff, and these guys doing the dumbest dick jokes I've ever heard are just slaying, and I'm like, I'm doing this wrong or something.
Yeah, but you don't want to, like, sell yourself out. It's a fine line, man. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, I just always I want to make everyone laugh. And, like, the crowd thinking I'm smart means zero to me. I don't need anyone to think I'm smart.
Right.
I think that's why my book was such a surprise to so many people, because they were like, man, like, as a fan of yours, I didn't, like, really think that you were a smart person. Totally fine. I'm much rather be underestimated than overestimated, man.
Yeah, but I think what you do there is, and maybe what I'm trying to say and perceive from what you do is, there's a line that you want the audience to get the joke, and you got to realize that they're not there analyzing the jokes the way that we do behind the scenes or in our brains.
Yeah,
they're trying to have a good time. Give them the breadcrumbs that lead them to the laughs, and don't try to create some, I don't know, chemistry joke in the background with all these complicated references and stuff, and it's all in your head, because
I don't need people to think I'm an artist. I'm fine with them thinking I'm fine. Like, that's totally fine with me, man.
I was gonna do it. I feel like I bring it up every single show now, Drew. But we had Scott Dickers, the editor of The Onion, on, and that was it. He's like, there's a distinction between comedy and art. It's entertainment. It's not art, and so.
Right.
You got to be careful not to try to get too much into the art of comedy. You might lose people, as to Drew's point. Lose your
art. You're allowed to use symbols, and art's allowed to be interpreted. You're allowed to make people feel like ennui or like longing or lust or heartbreak. And comedy, they're either laughing or they aren't laughing. Like, there's no art form to it. I hate that fucking thing about comedy being art. That's so pretentious and high-minded.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's as Scott Dickers put it, it's entertainment. People have to like it.
Yeah, exactly. They have to enjoy it and they have to laugh. That's the only response you're allowed to get if you're good at your job, is laughter.
Yeah.
I'm going to, if it's okay, I'm going to run the second half of this clip. I had to break it up into two, the way our software works, and it's just, it was an unfortunate spot where I broke it up. So let me run the second part of the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
My wife, though, real passionate when it comes to getting it on. Even if, I'm not there. I came home a day early. I was on the road. Sunday show was canceled. I said, I'm going to fly home a day early, not tell the old lady, surprise her, So I walk in the apartment, put down the bag, put on the eye patch, salute the dog, Just coming home stuff. And then from the old bedroom, I heard some wild noises, right? And I walked in on her having a moment alone, eyes closed. She was tending her secret garden. Yeah, she looked like Stevie Wonder doing a bass solo. Just... It was disgusting. Has anybody seen this? Has anybody seen my wife masturbate? Huh? Thank you for supporting the webcam. Here's the thing, team. Ladies, you do it different when you're alone. That's the truth. Whenever a woman's done it in front of me, we're setting the mood. We got some Christmas music on. All right? I'm pulling my taffy like an Amish kid on Rumspringa. I have very long foreskin, all right? And whenever a woman's ever done it in front of me, it's always one finger. It's one delicate finger, and it's right on the dog's nose, right down there. He's been a good boy. You're not checking his gums. His teeth are fine. It's right on the nose. And there's a lot of giggling and eye contact involved as you feed that little cross chipmunk almonds one at a time. It's just a lot of, oh. Oh. Check the wind. Oh! It's adorable and erotic, like youth volleyball. But here's the thing, all right? Shut up, I have to keep killing. All right. I walked into my wife jerking off by herself. First of all, the room smelled terrible. My God. It was like walking into the rainforest exhibit at an underfunded zoo. That was it. Monkey noises, primate smells, very high relative humidity, 3 fingers, 3 furious and curious fingers, human claw machine downtown. It looked like a sloth trying to pick up a pumpkin seed. She was ripping the copper wire out of the adobe walls. It was like there was one pickle left in the jar. Does that make sense? Fingers disappearing. She was nodding and shaking her head at the same time. Like a real indecisive catcher. That's what it was. So anyway, that's the story of how we lost my wife's engagement ring. I've been Sam Tallent. Thank you. I'm headlining on Sunday at the South Club. Come see me.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I think after hearing that you kind of got your start in improv, it makes so much sense and how funny and how these bits probably grew and little things added to it's just the perfect bit that just you could tell that you could have taken this bit. I don't know how long it is in your regular sets. It's got to be at least 10, 15, 20 minutes long. You could probably take this for a whole headlining set if you wanted to.
Yeah, definitely like at least a 7-minute bit,
Yeah.
And also, I have like 3 different closers that I'll rotate through. And that one's the one if I'm like doing the late show Saturday, like that's the dirty closer.
Yeah.
And it was weird, like that Airbnb or the bed and breakfast joke I had to cut in half. And then this joke I had to just cut down to its like most primal aspects.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's nerve wracking when you're auditioning. But also that joke is fucking like you can see in the crowd, like people are their heads are moving, they're convulsing. Like I was like, look, this was nuclear warfare. This was me dropping the nuke on Jeff Singer's fedora. I was like, look, watch how hard I can fucking kill. You know what I mean?
I love that in the middle of it, the set, you yelled at the audience to shut up. I have
killing.
To keep killing.
Yeah, keep killing.
That's classic hubris, man. That's a big Sam T move where you tell the crowd how good you are.
Shut up. I have to keep doing great.
Yeah. Right, when I said that, I'm staring right at Jeff Singer, too. I'm
That's
staring
so good.
through the guy who runs Montreal.
Oh my gosh. So many act outs. What's your strategy with creating these act outs and why are they so good?
I think a lot of comics are afraid to do act outs.
Yeah.
I think they think it's hacky or lazy. And it's like, why wouldn't you use every paintbrush, every color of the wind, man? I've never been averse to doing everything up there. That Stevie Wonder doing a bass solo thing was like new that night.
Really?
Yeah, well, I think I said it. I ran the set the night before at an open mic just because I had to get it in order, and I like riffed that, and I was like, "Whoa, that's cool! All right." So yeah, I threw that in there, man. But also, that joke's not true. None of my jokes are based on any kind of fact. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. That's not about my wife. Also, I couldn't do that joke at Montreal.
Well, it's too dirty for Montreal?
I mean, Jeff Singer, the people at Montreal don't give you very good notes. He was just like, that joke made a couple of our female employees uncomfortable.
Oh, God.
What? It's great.
Did you see the audience? I had to tell them to shut up.
Exactly.
Well,
this goes to show how little they know, because I have another bit in the beginning of that bed and breakfast joke where it's like, my wife proposed to me. She has a type. It's type 2.
Right.
And fat guy joke. There's no nuance to it. It's very much a hammer. And Singer was like, does that mean you're like a type 2 personality? And I was like, no, I'm just like, I'm a, diabetes. And he's like, but it works in the room? And I was like, yeah, it works in the room. And he's like, all right. We don't know what they're talking about, man.
That's weird. I did notice that was the one joke that did. I feel like some people might have missed that one, but it's golden. But it took that small leap. You didn't like. I think if you're a comedy fan, you had to know that's what the reference was. But how could you? I don't know how you could miss that one.
I don't either, especially when there's a 300-pound monster screaming it at you.
I'm gonna go back to act out real quick. So in my set, I like to act out too, Sam, and it takes me probably longer than it takes you. You're like, yeah, I did it the night before, so I'll get laughs on the idea, and then I'll add in the act out on the next night, and then slowly as I get more and more confidence, the act out gets better and better, right? So that's how I grow them. We had Ron G on, and he talked about visual punchlines, and I'm like, I love that. Yeah, how do we add more of that to our sets? And so it sounds like is that kind of the process for you? You're just better at it than me, doing it longer.
I mean, I don't know. I just like funny faces are such a forgotten thing in stand-up. Like Cedric the Entertainer, he's insane. He can get a lot. He has visual callbacks. Like he'll do a body posture, or he'll hold the mic a certain way.
Yeah,
it's just as effective as a callback as if he was to say anything. So, I think that like that joke, I was riffing it, and then eventually, like you said, like the next night you act it out a little bit, and then once you act it out, then you can tag the act out with more verbalization, and then it all just kind of mixes together over the course of a week or a month or a year,
Yeah, I feel like I need maybe videoing your sets.
I don't do that either. I've never
do that.
Never filmed and recorded myself, man.
Really? You just have an insane memory.
Well, I get to do stand-up enough.
Right.
But yeah, I hate watching myself, dude.
I feel like if I watched myself, I might realize I'm not acting out enough. And I might go, oh, I'm standing still. I'm not, I think I get so maybe consumed about the joke I'm telling, and I'm not really living it out. I'm not really expressing it. I wonder if that's if I videoed my sets and I saw how boring I looked, that I might be inspired to do more act outs.
I think that watching yourself and recording yourself is very good. I think that's a great thing. This should probably be like how not to do stand-up.
Sam Tallent, how not to do comedy.
Yeah.
Book 2.
Yeah.
Another thing I really appreciate about your comedy, Sam, is your ability, and it's interesting that you said this is not rooted in truth. I wonder if it's like my comedy where it's rooted in like shrapnel of truth, the things that have happened to me over time, and I kind of clob them together in my brain. I imagine that's the case. But as you're telling this stuff, like the what is it, the underfunded zoo? Like at first I was like, man, has he been to Moody Gardens? And then you talked about the sloth. I'm like, maybe it's the aquarium in Dallas. But either way, you were able to kind of help me get with you visually and be in the setting. And now I'm with you, and now I'll laugh at anything you say because you brought me into this environment that I'm able to construct. So you did that verbally. That's incredible.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
It makes a lot of sense how you're able to write the way you are in your book, because I mean, you have that ability. You have that very, like, you don't really show off all the ability, obviously, that you have in your comedy writing. You're a very gifted writer in the book. That's very obvious. And you do paint pictures immaculately. As you're reading that book, your brain is just exploding with visual cues, which I think is just a great reminder that, you've got that sewn up so strong.
Thanks, man. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be obtuse or sound like I'm fucking profound or a prodigy. It's just like they're different muscles. Like I've read a lot of literature and I've watched a lot of very silly comedy. So it's like, of course I'm going to emulate silly comedy, and I'm going to try and rip off, like, you know, very sincere prose. It's just, I don't know. But then, like you said, dude, like that zoo line, like, of course, when I have that line, I'm going to try and make it as sharp as possible. Like I am honing all the time. I'm just not like in front of a pen and pad. And I'm sure my bits would get a lot tighter a lot quicker if I was to watch or listen to my sets. But, you know, I'd rather like ride a bike or cook dinner.
and then you go with more material. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you bury yourself, 16 hours a day in writing, you're not going out experiencing and living life. And so you're not going to be able to farm new material, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I lost you a little bit. Sorry. I got the farming new material.
Yeah.
Because me and my dad and brother-in-law are all in the same room, and this handicapper we follow on Twitter, he just tweeted, and all of our phones made the alert.
That's how sensitive it is.
So what is it? How do you know? I'm curious. It seems like your writing strategy is to add, you have a lot of that. You, like you said a second ago, you add the tag and then the act out, and then you maybe tag up the act out. Is it really just volume to try to see, like, try everything once, see what sticks? What do you do? Is it you just like try as many things as you possibly can, see what works? Is that the main strategy of stretching those bits out? Because I think a lot of comics have a good joke at the core, and then we have a hard time really stretching it out and making it a real strong bit. Like I've got a couple jokes that I love, but I'm having trouble taking that joke to the next level and finding the other perspective or the tag or the act out. Any strategies that you kind of use to get there and to stretch those bits out?
Well, yeah, I think Patrice said you just try and tell the joke different every night, or like put it in a new spot in your in your hour or your 15 or whatever it is, like open with it. Just try and I've done the weird thing where then you try and sorry, dude.
So the handicap tweeter must have interrupted you. You said you've done the weird thing where you.
Oh, okay. So you'll take a bit and you'll chop it in half, like if that, and you'll take the closer, like the second half of your bit, and you'll open with that in the bit, and then you'll try and figure out how you could rewrite the ending, opening with the like killer punchline without the setup.
Wow!
You know what I mean? Like I had a whole thing. I have another bit where I like in an Uber and I like turn over the wrong shoulder, and that used to be the closer.
Yeah,
it was me turning over the wrong shoulder, and that was the laugh. And then I was like, well, I can probably get a lot more juice on this if I do that in the middle and then tag that. And the joke ended up being a lot better.
Yeah, I remember that. You closed with that in Boise that night, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, man. So yeah, I don't know, just it's really easy to be afraid of bombing. Like,
yeah,
if you're okay with like not necessarily bombing, but having to apologize after a bit, and then getting them back, like that's totally fine.
That's a great note. Like, don't just stop being afraid of bombing. I think that's what
coming from someone who wants to kill more than anyone. Yeah. And if I have a mediocre set, I'll be in the fucking alleyway stomping around, and my friends will be like, "It wasn't that bad." And I'm like, yeah, because you don't know what good is. You know, so, like, I'm the most I need to kill because I'm so competitive from being an ex-jock.
Absolutely. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get into our last segment. It's called Last Laugh.
That's creepier every time.
It is. So the question is, Sam Tallent, you've passed away, and you got one joke you can put on your tombstone for people to remember you by. This is Last Laugh. What would be your one joke on that tombstone?
Man, I would just put Fudge Judge on there because when my friends come to visit, or no, you know what? I might put one of my own bits, which is did I do that bit about fuck my big old ass when you saw me in Boise?
I do not recall that one.
You know, like how important catchphrases are, and like how I'm a catchphrase comic, and then
a bumper sticker.
Yeah, it turns out my catchphrase is fuck my big old ass. I would put a bit on my tombstone that my wife and or friends hate the most. So if you come visit and pour some cognac on the concrete, like they'll still have to be like, God, that bit, I never fucking got that bit. How did he get away with doing that for so long?
That's okay.
So, yeah, I'd like to put Here Lies a Fudge Judge, I think.
Perfect.
That'd be amazing. I think people would what do you call it when you go to someone's gravestone and you like take the trip? I forgot.
Oh, make like a pilgrimage.
The people would pilgrimage like Morrison to your grave to see the Fudge Judge.
Well, let's do this. Sam, where can people find you? Find your book? Anything coming up that need to be aware of?
Yeah, you can find my book at samtallent.com. Tallent. They can follow me on Instagram at Sam Tallent, and the audiobook's coming out soon. And
I was hoping for that.
Yeah,
reading is tough.
Reading's tough for a lot of people. People like to listen to stuff. I understand that.
Are you going to read it yourself?
No, I got Bert Kreischer, Stanhope,
Morgan Freeman. Okay.
Ari Shafir.
Awesome.
David Borey, Kyle Kinane, Adam Caton Holland. I got 11 different people reading each chapter. So
amazing.
Mark Norman can't read. It's awesome. Mark Norman tried to say the word ubiquitous for like 4 minutes straight, dude. It was completely brutal. Yeah.
Well, get out there and check out the book. You can get it on paperback today, and soon you're gonna be able to get it on an audiobook, which sounds incredible. So
you can get the ebook too on Amazon or Kindle or whatever.
Kindle, absolutely.
Yeah. And I got a thing coming out on Quibi. Will Smith's comedy show, This Joker, will be available on Quibi, so no one will see it.
Quibi. All right, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll make sure somebody sees it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for listening. Next week we have Mr. Sean Patton. Is it not next week? Oh man, looking forward to that. So thank you all for coming. Sam, thank you. And thank you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Breaking down bits.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow @BreakingDownBits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.